Steve James here from Great Way Martial Arts with another mindset training for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about comparing ourselves, because as martial artists, it can be very, very common to compare ourselves to other people, whether it's fellow students, whether it's your instructors, teachers, whether it's people that have really impacted the martial arts industry, etc. Like Bruce Lee, could be Ip Man, could be Jackie Chan, etc. But kind of comparing ourselves to other people. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit and why we want to kind of stay away from that. So I'm going to start with a quote here by Dr. Joyce Brothers, which is, "A strong, positive self-image is the best possible preparation for success." So the image that you hold in your mind of yourself is your best preparation for success. So if you are not happy with your self-image, then you really want to focus on rebuilding your self-image. And once you do that, it'll be locked into your subconscious, and everything, all your actions, behavior, habits, etc. will start to change because of that brand new self-image. So if you wanted to lose weight, as an example, and you decided that you wanted to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, etc., but you didn't create a new self-image of yourself, then what's going to happen is you might lose a few pounds, but the self-image, which is a cybernetic system, meaning that, like your thermostat or like an autopilot, it just automatically goes right back to where it was. It has that room temperature setting, and whenever we deviate from it, it just snaps us right back to it again, right? Even the systems that took rockets to the moon, they've got a cybernetic system. So if the rocket's off course, automatically corrects the course and keeps going. So you're going to your destination, your goal, which is to lose weight. And of course, you haven't created a new self-image of yourself. So you're like, oh, here I go. I lost 2 pounds. And then your self-image kicks back in again, boom, right back to where you were. Or worse, you might even gain more weight than you lost, right? And this is a very, very common. This is what really is the biggest issue when it comes to setting goals for ourselves, is that we really haven't changed our own self-image first. So if that's one of your goals, for instance, you want to create a new self-image, and from that self-image, of course, all your feelings, emotions, your actions, and your results will come from that new self-image. So another quote really quickly is by Maxwell Maltz, who wrote a book back in the early 60s called Cybernetics, which is a whole book devoted to self-image. It's a fantastic book if you get a chance to pick it up and read it. And his quote is, "Low self-esteem is like driving through life with your handbrake on." Man, you can imagine how much resistance there is there, right? How slow you're going compared to if the brake was off, and how much faster you go, and of course way less resistance. So comparing ourselves, well, we compare ourselves to others in martial arts and life in general, but we're going to stick to the martial arts for now, and you can apply it to other parts of your life if you like. We compare ourselves in this way. We pick and look at their best features. When we're doing that, we're comparing our average or our weakest ones, right? So right off the bat, there is no comparison, right? Apples and oranges, etc. We're comparing their best to our average or worst. Well, that's just not fair right away. You're not setting yourself up for success at all. So the comparison is, it's like being right-handed and trying to play an instrument with your left hand. I play an instrument, so I can imagine what that's like. But if you are right-handed and you don't play an instrument, or left-handed, and just imagine you writing your name with your right hand or left hand, and then put the pen in the other hand and try writing with the other hand and just see how that goes. That's really what you're doing when you're comparing, when we're all doing when we compare ourselves to other people, and especially in the martial arts, right? Their strengths are just not our strengths. We all have our own unique gifts and strengths. It's dangerous because when we do this, eventually we're unconsciously realization that we're not as good as them or better than them, which is really what we want. We want to be as good as them, if not better. That's why we're comparing. And we realize that we're not to what we're comparing ourselves to, and we can become a little bit self-destructive. It damages our self-image. We can start giving ourselves negative input, right? We start affirming negative things to ourselves, such as, well, I knew I wasn't as good as them. Anything negative you can think of. I'm not going to give you a bunch to put into your brain to start thinking about, but you know what I mean, right? We can start saying negative things to ourselves because we're comparing and we're not as good as they are stacked up against their best. And we're comparing our average or, of course, our worst. So the truth is that we're all exactly the same pretty much, right? The DNA of human beings living today in the world is 99.9% the same. That's number one way we're all the same. Number two is we all have a story. And number three, we all have our own challenges and battles, no matter how perfect you might think someone's life is. We all have our own battles and challenges. Number four, we're all afraid of something. We have some sort of fear. Number five, we're all stuck in our own skin, right? Everybody. We can't change skin, so we're all stuck there. Number six, we're all imperfect. Nobody's perfect. Number seven, we're all valuable. Everybody's valuable. Number eight, of course, we all have our own unique talents and gifts, right? We have our own strengths. They just don't have to be the same as somebody else's. And number nine, as far as we know, we are the universe's highest creation. We have a mind and we have faculties, higher faculties, creative faculties that other creatures don't have. So we're all the same that way. So here's some tips on how to stop comparing if you find yourself doing that. Number one, and this is the trump card. This is the one that if you're feeling any negative emotion whatsoever, if you focus on this, it'll stop you not only from comparing to others, but it'll also stop you from feeling worry, doubt, anxiety, fear, etc., which is gratitude. Really focus on gratitude. What are you grateful for, right? You can be grateful for who you are, where you are, and of course, who you have in your life. And not from a place of lack, right? Meaning that, well, yeah, it could be worse. I could be living, etc. I could be worse because I could be so-and-so. Not coming from that place, because that's comparing again, right? But just really be truly grateful for who you are, where you are, and who you have in your life. And coming from a place of abundance instead of from lack. Number two, focus on your own strengths. You have your own unique talents, gifts, and strengths, etc. Really focus on, get to know yourself better, what those really are. And don't worry about what somebody else's is. Number three, if you're not there yet, you're not able to do this yet, this is a really good one to focus on and truly be sincere at celebrating other people and their accomplishments. Right? Coming from that place of sincerity, like really being happy for them. Because what you put out always comes back, right? We attract what we give. So if you're giving, those really good feelings of celebration to somebody else for their accomplishments, it's just going to come back to you down the road anyway. Learn to compete with yourself instead of others. Whew, that's a big one, especially in this highly competitive world that we live in, right? But in martial arts, and that's why, in what we do, we don't do competitions. We don't compete. Number one, it's a self-defense style. It's not a competitive style anyway. But number two is because it just breeds more of the same, right? Competition is a finite game. There's a start and a stop, a beginning, there's an end, etc. Whereas Kung Fu really is infinite. There is no finite to Kung Fu. So competition doesn't even make sense when it comes in terms of Kung Fu, right? You're playing an infinite game here of Kung Fu, and I wouldn't even say Kung Fu and martial arts, because martial arts mostly is finite, but Kung Fu is really infinite. So if you're really thinking about competing, and that's really helps you to move forward and maybe break out of things, ruts and stuff like that, really challenge you, really focus on competing with yourself instead of others. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I be better next week than I was this week, etc. And not focus on others and comparing. All right, number five, have boundaries on how much time you spend watching and looking at media of any kind, especially social media, because its only purpose, social media's only purpose, should be to put good out into the world. That should be its only purpose. Unfortunately, we all know that that's not true. So have boundaries how much time you spend watching any kind of media, because we know that regular media is doing the same thing. It's not putting good out in the world either. And there's a lot of comparison going on in social media. So it's really implanting the wrong ideas. It's really not supporting maybe where you want to go in your life. And number six, take a social media fast, take a media fast, just to reset your mind, right? Just take a fast from all of it. Day, a week, a month, whatever works for you, but just kind of reset your mind and just kind of refocus on gratitude, etc., and not comparing yourself, where you are, how you are, who you are, where you live, etc. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just be grateful for what you do have. And lastly, just how are we different? So going back to the first thing I usually say in these mindset trainings, which is success is 5% strategy, 95% mindset. You can think of the strategy like your own unique talents and gifts, right? You have those strengths. You want to get to know those strengths if you don't already. But I think that, even from my own personal experience, you can always find there's more there to discover, right? There's levels of depth to which you understand your own unique strengths and talents and gifts. So focus on that. That's your strategy. And the rest, of course, is your mindset. You know, what makes people different is really how they think, right? How they think and doing things in a certain way. That's the real difference, our mindset. So I want to thank you for watching this video, and please check out more videos, and happy training.